Hello and welcome to another episode of A Wicked Parley. I'm your host, Justin, and my fellow co-host, Rose, has joined us.
Hello.
Tonight we're going to be discussing emotions. More importantly, emotions that are felt both in public and in private, and whether or not those particular things change, and how they change, and why they might change. And to facilitate our particular discussion, we'll be utilizing parts of an article, which there will be links, I believe, in the description. Is that correct? Okay. And also, for your guys' entertainment privilege, we'll also be having some gameplay of some Halo. I believe we're going to be doing a little bit of Master Chief Collection with a little bit of Reach campaign, I think, at some point.
Yep.
Okay.
While I'm reading the article and stuff.
Yeah. All right. And then also on next Wednesday, we're going to be having a special formatted episode. Hopefully you guys will enjoy. Yeah. So that getting started, I guess let's jump into what we're doing, huh?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Alright. So, you want to discuss the logistics of anything real quick before I turn you tiny?
When you say logistics, what are you meaning?
It's like the stuff we're talking about, like anything in particular.
I mean, yeah, I can discuss a couple things, but you can make me tiny while we're doing that. It's
Funk.
fine. Yay, small. Yay, woo. All right. Yeah, so I guess what we'll be discussing primarily are a few questions that range from, how people might conduct themselves in private versus, in public, who they might talk to and who they, might interact with to some degree, and why that might be. And then there's also the article that's being discussed to some extent.
The article has been put in the chat.
When did you want to jump into that?
Yeah, we can jump in right now.
All right, let's do it.
So, similar to how last time worked, similar to the last article we've done, this one's a bit long, it's going to be a bit jumpy, so we've picked out a couple of paragraphs that we want to discuss.
Yeah, and there's also, during each article section, we're going to pause, discuss a little bit about the contents of that article, and then from there, if you guys have any questions or, want to leave any comments, discussing some of the points, we'd be happy to hear them and potentially respond.
Yeah. So in the meantime, enjoy some multiplayer gameplay while I read. Alright. So the article is called Hard Feelings, Science's Struggle to Define Emotions by Julie Beck. We're starting a little bit further into the article, so not at the very top. We're starting at the word emotion did not exist in the English language until the early 17th century. It made the hop from France to Britain when British linguist John Florio translated philosopher Michael de Montaigne's essays. Sorry for the mispronunciations here. Florio reportedly apologized for including the word along with other uncouth terms from the French language. Uncouth perhaps because, as Thomas Dixon explains in his History of the Word, it referred then to agitations, bodily movements, or commotions. There could be public emotion, for example. To think the word emotion in the past was considered an uncouth term.
I mean, honestly, does that surprise you? I mean, like 300 years ago, there's a whole bunch of language that we use pretty commonly today that would have been considered vulgar and harmful in some ways.
Yeah, like I figured a couple of words like that, but it's just like, it's funny thinking on it now.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I personally think that a lot of language today is offensive, but I just ignore it. I can't imagine what someone from a pre-Victorian period when hearing some language, the parts they understand, they're probably would be horrified.
Just imagining the dramatic, how dare!
I know, right?
Alright. So, next paragraph.
Okay.
For many centuries, the sorts of mental states to which emotions now refer were typically called either passions or affections. The ancient Greek and Roman Stoics were notoriously anti passion. They taught that man should use reason to battle all feelings in order to avoid suffering. The Christian theologians, Thomas Aquinas and Augustine of Hippo, thought that was a bit much, so they carved out a separate category of good, virtuous feelings, which they called affections, things like familial love and compassion for others, and distinguished them from evil passions, such as lust and rage.
Damn those lust and rage. How dare they?
Oh, goodness.
So when
Hello, host.
Hi, host. So, like, when it comes to, like, particular, oh my goodness, Jesus.
You doing okay?
Yeah, I'm doing okay. I'm just, like, I got overrun.
Anyways.
Oh yeah. But when it comes to, like, certain things, I mean, like, can you imagine, like, how, like, insensitive some people must have been to certain thoughts and feelings? Like back then, just considering the fact that they find certain elements of our language offensive in that particular way, like
fact that they went ahead and labeled it evil. It's like, whoa, hold on, that's a pretty strong term nowadays.
Yeah. You're evil. How dare you? I'm emotional. You're evil.
Like, I know. Nowadays, like, a lot of people tend to associate certain feelings with, like, positive or negative, but it's just like it's usually positive or negative or at least for my friend group.
I mean, like,
what up?
I don't know. Like, there's this motion in psychology called positive psychology, and like it has a huge effect, I think, at least on the way in which certain like things are portrayed in media and the way in which psychology is kind of conducted today. And I see like there's a correlation between the way in which some people talk, you know, when it comes about emotions, and the way in which certain viewpoints are like shared in like, you know, public and whatnot. And so I wonder, you know, like how much our culture has like impacted the way in which we think and feel from an emotional perspective. And maybe because we, you know, are, I would say, highly emotional today, that, you know, we are somewhat desensitized to the notions of emotion from the past.
Fair. Let's see. Host. Oh my goodness. Sorry, I just read their chat quote. It's kind of on this paragraph. It says, host says that they propose negative happiness, being happy for devious reasons.
Okay. I have
that sounds
no idea what to do with that.
Yeah, pretty much.
To me, like that brings up other like thoughts that I frankly think would be, you know, kind of wrong. Like, all right, like I'm gonna say this, and like I understand that I'm in no way trying to be unsensitive to some people, but like some people, you know, like would have referred to like if you change the word from happy to gay, and of course gay means happy, you know, like in like depending upon, you know, who you and when you ask, definitions. And so, like, if you were to put that in there, gay for negative reasons, like, if you were to invert the words, like, you could create a completely different, like, meaning.
Isn't language lovely?
Yeah.
Gosh. All right. So, next paragraph. Around the mid-18th century or so, Dixon writes, these passions and affections were lumped together under the umbrella of emotion. In the early 19th century, Scottish philosopher Thomas Browne was the first to propose emotion as a theoretical category, opening the door for scientific research. But though he was eager to study it, Browne couldn't define it. The exact meaning of the term emotion, it is difficult to state in any form of words, Browne said in a lecture, and so it has remained.
I mean, like, what do you think, Rose? Do you think that, like, emotion is still difficult to define today?
I would say so, yes, because it's like, depending on who you ask, you're gonna get different answers. Some people think it's more scientific, like it's more based on biology. A couple of people think it's more like experiences and whatnot. So some people think it's tangible, some people think it's intangible. So I don't think any one of my friends have fully come to a consensus yet.
I mean, I think there's some things we could probably all agree on, though.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like so, like in my particular opinion, when it comes to emotion, I think we can definitively say emotions are feelings. I think there's very little like ground that could not be sullied, as it were,
Mm-hmm.
as to say that it's not. If you were to say emotions are not feelings, then I don't just be like, I don't know what to do with you. I would be like lost. I'm like, what?
It's like, nope, get out.
I mean, it's not like get out, but I mean, they're just like I have no words for you. Like I don't know how you think. Like,
It's called on a very, very different wavelength.
perhaps. And so, like, I think that's one thing that we could probably all root it in. I also think that, like, depending upon the, like, the history of the person, depending upon the experience of the person, you could define emotions as also experiences. And I think that's probably like that's when we start to leave the consensus land and start to enter the woo woo territory.
Woo-woo. Not that type of woo woo.
Yeah.
Woo. That type of woo woo.
Of the potentially like, I made a mistake. I know. All right. But I think at least emotions have to be rooted in both a feeling and an experience together. I might be wrong on this, and maybe some people might disagree with me, but I feel like it has to be that way. And the reason why I think that is because part of what makes an emotion strong is the association that you build with it. And how would you be able to build it without having a memory tied to it? And how would you be able to have a memory tied to it without having had an experience? Like, I think it's kind of like a dominoes. It's like, when one domino falls, they all fall.
Bye.
That sort of situation. At least that's my take when it comes to the way in which emotions are defined for me.
Fair.
Well, like, so do you still think you don't think so, or do you think there's some things that we could agree on at least when it comes to defining them?
Yeah, I can definitely agree that it's a combination of a feeling and an experience because depending on your experience, I know that I've seen that depending on people also express emotions in different ways too.
Yeah.
Because of their experiences with it.
Yeah.
Like you've got people that let me take anger for an example. Some people have a kind of quiet simmering anger. It's kind of festering and then it's a while before it blows up, or it could be even petty when they get back at you for whatever reason. And then there's the explosive anger, which is, they scream, they yell, they throw things a lot, like immediately. I've seen both, and it's just like, whew, sometimes.
I can see that.
But yeah, it's like people have different ways of expressing different emotions too, which is more than likely based off of their own personal experiences. Like, there might be reasons that you can't express certain emotions certain ways and all that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What would be an example of an emotion that you think it'd be difficult to express?
You mean in a specific way, or do you mean
Yeah.
just in general?
Just like, I mean, like in a very specific situation. Like what I'm thinking is like, I think philosophers have tried to define emotions that are like, feel like for instance, like love is a hard emotion to be able to define because it seems to mean everything and nothing all at the same time. And it has an experience and also other things tangent to it. I also think like loss is another great one that's kind of like difficult to kind of like really pin down, other than it being the absence of something. But beyond that, like the exact emotional feelings that are linked to those particular things, I think aren't really well defined. At least to me, they're not.
That's fair, especially considering how intertwined they are, because you can, feel emotions and feelings aren't mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
So it's like it's like, can you, if you're feeling multiple emotions, can you really determine which one belongs to which one, or if it's shared amongst both? Like which actions or which reactions and whatnot.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's probably like a way to probably discern them, but I think that you'd have to take the humanity out of the circumstance or situation to be able to discern which is which.
Yeah. Hey, that's a no. I would not be able to do that.
Ah.
I'm an emotional being.
Yeah, I think I'm with you there. I don't think I could do it either.
Yeah, so there is this one thing I found in the article. I mean, there are multiple things I found in the article, but we have limited time here. But one of the sentences that was really interesting was in 2013, researchers were able to trigger a fear response in patients with amygdala damage by having them inhale carbon dioxide.
Mm-hmm.
Like, who comes up with that?
Well, I mean, first of all, science is weird, and people who are messing with gases get bored sometimes. And
I mean, true, but like,
and one thing led to another. Probably, realistically, probably very smart chemists that are able to see like these particular reactions seem to have an effect, and so they probably did series of experiments on a variety of things before going to human trials. And so I would say that it's probably was really lengthy that got to that particular point, but I think that's kind of interesting. I mean, don't you think it's kind of interesting?
It is interesting. It's just like, again, how'd they even get started with that type of idea?
Well, I can say this much. There's been a lot of research put forth based on certain neuroscientists and certain people researching the brain for quite some time and trying to find ways in which neural stimulation and finding less invasive ways. And so gases, being able to breathe in gases or ingest them in some way or another seems to be a less invasive than opening up your skull and stimulating certain portions of your brain directly.
Like,
so like,
what would you rather have?
Yeah, so I mean, I know for a fact that's been kind of been looked at. I mean, and honestly, if you've ever been to like, okay, have you ever been to the dentist and you're ever like wondering like, hey, what's laughing gas all about? It's like, well, that's kind of interesting in its own way, right? And so I think that when it comes down to all of those things, at least that part, I'm equally intrigued by it based upon its implications, because it shows that there's multiple ways in which we can gain information outside of opening you up. and I like that. Well, I'm getting wrecked right now.
Oh my. Alright. The article obviously goes into a lot more detail, more than we really have the time to cover.
Yeah.
So I'll end the article reading with the very last two paragraphs of the article here. So the first one is, science is not always a set of answers to questions, a collection of hard-won facts about how the world works. Sometimes the scientific method spans decades, centuries even, every study a drop in a bucket that might never be filled. It's hard to know how close emotion researchers are to a solution, or if there even is one. Philosophically, it's arguable that experience is not anything intrinsically measurable. Fridlund writes, this may make it forever off limits to science.
I mean, I think I disagree with that. Like, honestly.
Which part?
Well, the fact that like certain experiences can't be measured. I think that's just. I think that's probably not accurate. Just because if you think about anything you've ever done, right? Or any skill you've ever tried to learn, every single time you ever did something like that, you were probably gaining something. You didn't start something going, I already know all there is to know about this. And so like you can measure the abilities and those experiences based upon like success, as well as like, you know, other sorts of experience kind of things like that you have. Like, so if you didn't have that and you couldn't measure that, then how would you know you ever did in the first place? And how would you ever know the proficiency by which you did something if it wasn't possible to measure? It just, to me, like that whole thing kind of seems a little iffy. I mean, like, I understand kind of where they're coming from, but I also kind of think that there's inherently flawed logic to it.
Fair. There's only one real issue I can see about that.
Oh yeah, what's that?
And that's if and when people start trying to compare their experiences to each other.
Okay, but here's the problem with what you're saying. Is the person who's comparing the other person the same as that person?
Yeah, that's exactly the point, because it's like you're trying to essentially measure up, and it's like that causes quite a number of problems.
Well, I think comparing yourself to another person in the situation is probably not the only way in which you can measure something.
No, but it's one of the most common ones amongst different groups of people, at least. Like, people are always critical of themselves. They're always, well, a lot of people are always comparing themselves to other people. Like, oh, they've had this experience, they've had that experience, they have these skills, they have that skills.
I mean, I'll put it this way. Like, yes, that's probably a pretty common thing. But I also like remember like something that one of my professors said a long time ago, and it was something like don't measure your success don't measure your success by the successes of others. Measure your success by the success that you have. Because I think that like that particular I'm paraphrasing what he said, by the way. It wasn't exactly that. It was something close. It was much more nuanced and more helpful to me. So I'm sorry that I could not recount the exact thing.
No, you're good. I think I get it. It's just like you should only really compare your experiences like to your own, because that's how you know you've like improved or gotten worse. Mm-hmm. The thing is, that's definitely not what a lot of people do.
Yeah.
And especially with society today, it seems real competitive.
Yeah.
In a lot of different fields.
That's true.
So, as much as I'd like that to be the case for you to just, compare your experiences to your own to know whether you're improving or whether you might want to take a break if you're not improving. Mm-hmm. It's just society likes to make people competitive over whether that be like jobs or hobbies or like even recreational stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else for this particular paragraph?
No.
Okay. So, the very last one. I don't know if you'll have enough time for a game.
Probably not.
Alright, so the very last paragraph. It would be kind of nice to think that in this age of answers, there might be a forever question. Not about God or the meaning of life, but just about humans and how we work. Maybe emotions are just the collection of physiology, behavior, and situational context, nothing more. But maybe there's something more to them than just that, a deeper meaning that emerges from the constellations we create, something transformative and ultimately unknowable.
Honestly, when it comes to that, I don't think there's anything that's unknowable. I think with enough time and enough, research, you probably would be able to figure out anything. And I just think that, like, the idea that something is unplayable is...
unknowable?
Or unknowable. I mean, at least is, like... unsettling, to say the least. I mean, like, I think I look back at certain things in science. 100 years ago, it was crazy to think that a guy would ever be able to travel to the moon.
Yeah.
And yet...
we did it.
In 60 years, roughly, they were able to do it. It went from no flight to walking on the moon in like less than 7 years. To think that we can't know something if we put the effort into it seems a bit on the ridiculous side of things. For a multitude of reasons. Not just like like the obvious, it must be difficult and take so long, or blah 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 blah. It's the fact that you're taking away the humanity of what it is to explore, and that is something that's intrinsically uniquely human. Like to the degree by which we are curious. So I think that I just don't like that statement in general. Like, I agree with a lot of what the article has to say, but like there are certain parts that just kind of go, I don't like that so much, and that part stands out to me as one of those.
Yeah, you are fair to dislike whatever you please.
Yes.
All right, so that's the end of the article. Again, we've put the article in the chat for anybody who wants to do a deep read. Heck, we might revisit it at some point, either here or on the Patreon.
Probably on Patreon.
Probably on Patreon. All right. So, we ready for... Okay, I did join the game, so we are able to have the discussions about the questions that we've gotten.
Okay.
As soon as I make sure my device doesn't put itself to sleep.
Okay.
All right, we're good to go.
All right, I'm gonna knock down the difficulty down a little bit.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I kind of need it.
We're gonna make it like, you know, not as horrible, and yeah, here we go.
All right. So first question: what are some of the reasons why some people may hide their emotions either in public or in private?
What are some of the reasons why people? Repeat it one more time.
Yes. What are some of the reasons why some people may hide their emotions either in public or in private?
Oh, I think there's lots of reasons for why someone might hide emotions. You know, there's a combination of situation. There's the type of people whom you're interacting with. There's the type of type of person you are. All of those things together definitely have something to say about what you're willing to do, how you're willing to conduct yourselves, all that sort of stuff. And so I would imagine that, like, if you were to think about it like this, like some people are introverted, some people are extroverted, and some people are somewhere in between.
Yeah.
And also, you know, depending upon your culture and depending upon, you know, like certain values that maybe your parents have and some expectations they might have for you, all of those things might be somewhat controlling or manipulating certain things you may or may not do and say. And so if you think about all of those things, then you could easily see any number of situations, whether it is to protect family or certain friends, or to protect a job, that you may hide certain emotions. Like if you were working as a grocery baggage person, or you're working in a shoe store selling stuff, or like you're inside an industrial park and you're having to work with people, and you start screaming and yelling at the top of your lungs, regardless of the circumstance or situation, that's probably not a good thing. It doesn't matter how good you feel. You may need to, you know, shelf that, hide that emotion, tuck that away for a bit. So at least that's my thoughts on that, about maybe perhaps why. Did you have any thoughts on that, Rose?
Nothing new besides it's like also based on your comfortability, but like you've already covered that. Like how comfortable you are with the people around you too.
I mean, do you have any like personal experiences that you could think of that kind of like line up with what I said?
Yeah, so it's like I have a couple of different personas. One that's like in front of my parents, one that's in front of certain friends, and then I've got, you know, my work persona. Because it's like I can't if I'm working with a person and and if the person's like a supervisor or a boss or the employee that I'm working for or a client or whatever, if they're starting to frustrate me or irritate me, I can't exactly show that, you know?
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to lose your job. You don't want to...
Oh, no.
You want to save face wherever possible. Yeah, I mean, I definitely can understand that, and I think it's kind of like, it makes sense. Do you think that...
Yeah.
Do you think that, like, your various groups are aware of the different hats you might wear?
Oh, they are absolutely positively aware that I've got different hats for different scenarios.
Do you think that negatively or positively influences or affects those particular friendships or dynamics, depending on if it's at work?
Yeah. To be honest, there could be, then they're just not telling me, because like despite how I tell them, they are free to be as open as they want with me as to like if something I'm doing is bugging them or irritating them or frustrating them. Sometimes they just won't. And sometimes that's just because they want to be nice, they don't want to like put any restrictions on me. Sometimes they just don't bother. So it's like, whether it's causing a problem or not, I'm not personally aware of it. It might be, but like I'm very much of the I can't fix it if I don't know what's happening, and I am lagging for one. And I can be dense like a potato.
I see.
I think I just watched a guy get crushed by one of those drop pods.
That is entirely possible.
But yeah, like, what about you? What have you had to deal with when it comes to that sort of thing, huh?
Oh, I'm 100% open with everybody. I treat everyone the same.
Yeah.
With the exception of my family. Like, that's the only exception I have. Like, I just...
Even like working clients and stuff?
Oh, hell yeah, absolutely. Because, like, here's the thing. Like, I'm terrible at hiding my emotions, as I'm sure anybody who's watched these streams at any real duration has seen me go from happy to sad to angry to bored. And I just, I've recognized that this is a weakness of mine. And so, instead of, trying to hide it, I just kind of, accept it. And I do my best to do what I think is the appropriate thing in the given situation. But honestly, I don't think it's really helpful for too many people to hide emotions, because at the end of the day, most people who are bad at hiding their emotions are going to be like, that's fake anyway, so, like, why even give me the time of day? And so I just, that's why I don't. And when it comes to my family, the only reason why I do that with my family is mostly because I feel like sometimes they would require a very lengthy explanation for certain things, and I just don't feel compelled to give them that level of information, considering the fact that a lot of times, not all the time, but enough of the time for me to be concerned about it, it has definitely not been worked out to my advantage. And so I don't tend to want to share that way because of that. But it's not because they're bad people or anything like that. It's just, it's my own insecurities.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Sometimes it's like you hide them away because of, like, the experiences you've had with them and other people.
Yeah.
All right. So, next one?
Yeah.
All right. What problems might happen if you change your emotional position in front of people due to circumstance? Oh, hold on. We have a couple of comments from host.
Sure. Let's read them.
All right. Forgive me if I die several times over.
That's totally fine.
Yep. So, host, I believe we hide our emotions because we don't want to appear, quote, weak or vulnerable. It follows the notion men don't cry. It's not useful to hold in emotions all the time, though. Being weak means being a target, more likely to be picked on, more likely to be approached by Mormons, more likely to be avoided as being unstable, but that's just my opinion. Masks aren't necessarily a bad thing. Everyone is different, so they need to be treated differently.
Here's the thing that I agree with the host's first comment and disagree with the second comment. And I'm not going to try and change your mind on it, on any of those things, because frankly speaking, you're free to make your own opinion about things. And I think that's one of the things that I like about this particular show and why I want it to continue. When it comes to things, I definitely, at least for the part that I disagree with, just because I think that's kind of more important to talk about, I think masks it is a very much depends situation. Sometimes they're helpful, sometimes they're not. I find that I personally desire to be in situations where I don't need a mask, because it means that I have to do a lot of extra work, and yes, I am a lazy person, and so like, yes, I don't want to have to do extra work when it's ultimately unnecessary or not nearly as helpful as it could be. And the other part too is that I think that you're not being genuine. And if you're not being genuine, then you are not being able to be 100% productive. I mean, like, just giving an example of someone who, if they were 100% honest all the time, like, it would have created a much better outcome. Look at, like, President Trump, and not to go former President Trump.
Not again with this.
No, I'm just saying, like, think about this. All the crazy things that happened out, like, that we didn't even know about till afterwards, right? Do you think that every single person would have agreed with him, that supported him, if they had known everything that it was behind him? I kind of think probably not. Like, I honestly kind of think probably not. And so, like, I just think that, like, whenever you have an outlandish, kind of character, sometimes it's easy to kind of, point out some of the flaws, because even if it seems like an extreme, at least it presents an opportunity for cross-examination of certain beliefs. And so, like, I think that, like, if you wear, I mean, like, certainly people wear masks all the time, and I'm not saying that, like, it's
Not
universal.
just because of the demonetization virus.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not saying they're universally necessarily bad. I just think personally, in my opinion, I don't think they're good.
You
Because
don't like them too much?
yeah, because like I want to know like I'll put it this way, like I am very much of the mind that I want to be treated the way in which you know, that I act. And I want
Mm.
people to treat me and do those things in those particular ways.
Mm.
Now, I want people to be always honest. You know, I'm so sick and tired of people being completely dishonest with what they do that
Mm.
there's the opportunity to never really get to know somebody just because you don't get to know who's really being the one talking. Is this the work hat? Is this the social hat? Is this the real this person? It's like, how do you distinguish it? You know, some people I've heard that talk about this in a way that's positive says that they're all the real person. They're just different elements. But to me, I don't read it that way because if it was, then there'd be some elements of it in all the ways in which someone like is, and I just have never seen evidence to support that. I've always
Mm.
seen people be fragmented where they're like an example is like I used to be the vice president of an anime and games club at a community college that I went to before my current college, and the thing that I remember most was that there was a lot of people who were ashamed that they liked anime, and so they would act and talk in a certain way, you know, in front of me, right? And then they would talk and act in a completely different way if they were in a clique that was like not somebody who liked anime. And to me, I never knew who I was talking to, who was the real version of themselves. Um, and
Mm.
to me, like that's just one real world example of many that I've encountered over time, and
Huh.
and it bothers me.
Ah. Okay, that's fair. Yeah. Just based on like your experience and whatnot, and how well you don't had to deal with those people.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong
Okay.
with the position necessarily. I personally have never had good experiences from it.
Fair, fair. If you don't exactly have a good experience, it's not like you're going to want to be
Yeah,
have
also,
that happen. Oh, jeez.
yeah, and also, like I think trust also plays a huge role when it comes to stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have I'll be I'm no I'm not gonna be like fake or anything. I have huge trust issues when it comes to some things, and like that would just be something that would make me not want to trust them at all.
Jeez. I
Oh
think I just
damn! I got blown up.
you kind of flew right in front of me. I'm sorry.
Oh wow! Oh, thank you, thank
I
you.
was firing at the Seraph you were fighting at, and you just kind of flew in front of the missile.
Gotcha. Okay, understood. Got it.
My bad.
Ah, no worries.
Ah.
Na 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 na.
Shall we move on to the next one? Oh,
Yeah,
God.
sure.
I'm getting shut at. All right. What things could be said to a person to persuade them to be more honest with their emotions?
I was shooting you, by the way.
Oh. I wasn't honest. I honestly didn't notice.
Although I wasn't trying to kill you, so.
So yeah, what do you think about that one? You want me to reread?
Yeah, go ahead and reread.
Yeah, sure. What things could be said to... Hold on, let me triple check the chat here.
Mhm.
Before I move on to the next question here. Let's see. Oh. Well, that's a callback to our Saturday episode, isn't it?
What?
So they add like using a politician as a poor example. Trump was trying to avoid cancel culture, and then the last one is kind of there's no point in arguing ideologies about masks. We all have our own ideals and experiences. Who is shooting? So that's what they've got to say about that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's see what things could be said to a person to persuade them to be more honest with their emotions.
I don't think anyone can be. I honestly like. I would like to believe that like you could say something, and then all of a sudden, that person's gonna realize, oh wait, that may not be the best way to conduct themselves, and so okay, I'm suddenly gonna change. But I think like life experience has taught me that basically that people have to choose to want to do something in order for them to actually do it. So I don't think there's any one thing that could be said. I think what ends up happening, if you wanted to have a positive outcome, is be supportive of that particular person's ability to do what they want, and
Mhm.
hopefully when the time comes for them to do the thing that you believe in, that you be extra special, attentive, and supportive in a way in which they can easily understand and identify. At least that's my initial kind of like thought on that. I mean, it could very well be something else.
Yeah, I've had a couple of people where they've had a couple of bad habits, but if you point it out, they're just like, nah.
Oh my god, I've had so many bad habits. I'm
It's
probably
like they
one of
don't
those
want to hear
people.
it sometimes.
Oh, that's not me though.
I mean, sometimes you don't want to hear it, but like that's everybody, to be honest.
I wouldn't say that. I think I want to hear it all the time. Like, I want to hear it all the time because I want to be a better
I
person.
have so many examples.
Really?
Couple.
Okay, interesting.
It's like I know a minimum one,
Okay, all right.
but no need to get into it on the show.
Okay.
Anyway, let's see. I think sometimes it might help to like. Sometimes I know some people don't really see what they're doing wrong until um, you kind of put them into like
You pointed
say
out.
person A, yeah, you point it out, or you put them in the shoes of whoever the heck they might have offended or hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Completely twisted the wrong way. So it's like, yeah, pointing it out, being supportive when they actually do attempt to change and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Because they have to, like you mentioned, they have to want to change. If they don't have the motivation, it's tugging it's tugging a very heavy like semi truck that's fully loaded with like a scooter. You may or may not get somewhere. It'll take like 100 years.
I'm gonna go with you. May as well get out and push.
Yeah, exactly. You might as well just get out and shove.
Might be quicker.
Yeah, it might be quicker. But yeah. So let me see if there's a thing here. Nope, not yet.
Okay.
All right. What kinds of emotion? Oh, right when I was about to read, I see the comment.
Okay.
All right. It depends on the situation, but I think it boils down to how comfortable they feel and how willing they want to, quote, change, for the lack of a better word.
Yeah, I mean that's basically what we said. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. I mean,
It's
honestly,
more
yeah.
it's more straightforward than what we've been saying.
Well, no, I think that like it's more straightforward, but I think that like it isn't any less true. I think
Yeah.
that like it leaves out some of the more the subtleties, but
Hmm.
just because it leaves out the subtleties doesn't make it incorrect.
Darn that stream delay. Yeah.
Yeah,
We want to make sure you aren't staring at like pixelated stuff.
yeah, yeah.
Ah. All right. Next one. What kinds of emotions are not considered appropriate in public?
Okay.
Oh my.
All right. So there's a long list of these.
I would imagine.
So first of all, let's frame this.
Okay. Okay.
This
Okay.
question's kind of like a bigger one. Okay, so
Yeah.
it first depends upon where you live and what culture you partake in. So if you are a Western type person, what person in the we'll call it the huge like part of the world that we normally talk about, then obviously like talking about things that would be considered indecent um, is
Uh-huh.
probably frowned upon.
Yeah.
If you talked about things that like killing somebody or like having sex with somebody or doing any sort of violent outbursts, typically all things like that could be
Mm-hmm.
ruled as not good things.
Yeah.
But depending upon the culture and depending upon the circumstance and the situation, there could be various other potential acceptable or not as frowned upon activities um, in certain parts of the world.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another thing to kind of consider, because I'm familiar with a couple different cultures around the world that are vastly different than our own, and
Yeah.
speaking to certain people in a certain way, kind of has completely different effects. So that would be at least one thing that I can think of.
Okay, okay. Oh, so a lot of the ones I can think of are like more on the extreme end.
Oh yeah, like what?
Like one dimension, like, you know, the oops,
The oops.
crash into the ship. One is like, talking about, murder if you're not with a friend group and you're joking.
Uh-huh.
Because I am friends with a bunch of murder hobos here when it comes to D&D and like video games, so.
Sure. We are murdering aliens at the moment. I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
understandable.
So it's just like
context.
Exactly. And then, lusting after people like straight up.
Okay.
Those are the main two I have, really.
Okay.
Not that much, in all things considered.
I mean, it's definitely evident of your experience.
Yeah, pretty much. Oh. Alright. I'm gonna die. Okay, nope. We're good. Had to check chat.
Okay.
Wanted to check chat to not leave him out of the party here.
Okay.
Do we want to just go ahead and move on to the next one?
Sure. Yeah.
Alright. Have you ever been in a situation where you've seen an emotional outburst in a public place?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah?
Oh, I mean, if anyone's been watching the episodes, remember I gave the story about the girl that I went on a date with that was screaming and yelling and swearing in front of small children in front of a coffee shop? Yeah, that's a legendary story. And yeah, like definitely not my proudest, happiest moment, that's for sure. But definitely one of those things that it's like it always sucks whenever like you have one of those kinds of experiences because you just know that something bad is inevitable. It's going to happen. And so like if you see or hear someone start to yell and screaming like that, you have all sorts of like crazy, like, I don't know, like reactions would probably be the better way to do it. And so yeah, I mean, have you ever seen anyone just like lose their shit in public?
They're mostly secondhand experiences.
Like what?
There's always like the videos you see on YouTube. I've also, it's like, and it's not the biggest outburst, but I've had like mini ones where friends or family or like people I know are completely irritated and they will just snap. Not always the prettiest thing, or ends up being the most positive thing. Like I remember a friend of mine was getting irritated and I think it was with a kid. Yeah, they were getting irritated because of a couple of questions that a kid was throwing at him. And let's just say called the kid a dumbass.
Ah, I see.
It was like, I think 10.
That's an unfortunate
Not the best moment for my friend. They immediately regretted it, but it was just like, you know?
Things happen though.
Yeah.
Makes me wonder, was the kid being a real shit?
In my perspective, no, but they might have a different perspective of that.
Okay.
So it's like, from my experience, the kid was just being a kid, just asking questions.
Ah.
But I don't know.
So
yeah, like my stories are more mild in that sense.
Okay. Like, were there like, I guess, like, were there any repercussions for your friend?
Besides being scolded by the adult and then like checked up on by myself and my other friend that were there at the time, Thankfully, nothing like too overly huge that would like, legal trouble or anything. Thank goodness no for that.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just like, they were already feeling guilty.
I see.
Like, as soon as the word left their mouth, they immediately regretted it. But the kid had already run off, and the parent was already angry.
Makes sense. All right, let's move on to the next question.
Yeah, sure. All right. What advice would you give to people that would help them understand how to properly communicate their emotions?
I think the first thing is, live a life that, you're intending to live. So act in accordance to your intentions. Don't try to be as aware of what you're doing and what you're saying as much as possible. I mean, no one's going to be perfect, but I would say, being aware of yourself will allow you the ability to at least have some semblance of control over your emotions, and as such will allow you to project yourself in a way that is what you hope or intend on trying to do.
Fair. Yeah, the only thing I've really got is like the whole, again, know what you're doing and actually try to get a grip on what you're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
It's sometimes a little difficult if people start trying to infer their own like thoughts about what you're doing, though. Because I've had it several times where I like do one thing, but like people outside of my friend group completely think of it as something else.
Like what?
I'd like to say I'm pretty affectionate with my friends, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I give them hugs, I like hang out with them. Cuddle sessions are a must. When it's not like triple degrees out, at least. And like I've had several people like look at my friend groups and they immediately think it's like, oh, are you dating or whatnot?
Mm-hmm.
Or like just because I'm close with them and whatnot, they think there's something more.
Okay.
So it's just like people can't like, you can of course be as honest as you want, but if the person doesn't know you well enough, they're gonna infer some things that aren't true. And then it's one thing if a stranger does it, it's another thing if like other friend groups start doing it too.
Mm-hmm.
Just because they don't know the the friend dynamic of the other group that they're not a part of and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least that's my opinion on things because it's happened.
Yeah, that's a whole battle. That's a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I see where you're going with that.
Yeah, that's happened way too many times to me.
Makes sense.
What about you? What do you think? On top of that.
I don't know.
No, you don't know?
I don't even know. Like when you say on top of that, you need a response to that because I want to stay away from that like a 10-foot stick.
Fair.
We
wouldn't want to touch that with a 10 nor even a 20-foot pole.
That's not my business.
Yeah.
But when it comes to like it in general, like stuff like that, I mean, I think that it's human nature. Humans naturally like to read between lines.
Yeah, we do.
I mean, really do. Tabloids are successful for a reason. Doesn't make everything in tabloids,
right? Yeah. Yeah. Host says, keep trying. Practice makes things more comfortable, but sometimes maybe not more efficient. At least I think I'm reading that correctly. Keep trying. Practice makes things more comfortable. Parentheses, but not more efficient. Where am I at?
Not sure. I feel like I'm alone.
Because I am lagging.
Ah, I see. It just wants me to knife this guy. Or
then knife him.
Or rip his head off. I mean, like, whatever animation seems to make sense.
Whatever works.
Yeah. I want your gun. Oh, okay, I can't kill George.
Oh. Defend a bomb. Wonderful.
That's the ship.
All right.
Ooh, ammunition.
Let's see. Let's check the time here. 9:54.
Yeah.
How are we doing?
Well, I think we're done. I think we've handled this subject with we didn't get no one got angry. I think
Except for the monsters.
yeah, exactly. And I think that it's not nearly as bad as as it could have been.
Mm-hmm. Fair. Do we want to give any other updates about what the staff have been doing outside of the live streams?
Okay. Well, all right. I guess yes. Why don't you share with our wonderful audience and also the people in the future with what we've been doing recently.
Yeah. So, besides the question of the days on Twitter and TikTok, the staff have also been saving the streams from our Twitch channel, and we'll be uploading the footage onto Patreon soon. Essentially, like when they disappear.
Yeah, when she says soon, she means immediately.
Yep. Essentially, they're working on getting the first upload from 2 weeks ago, but starting essentially this upcoming Sunday, when a stream gets deleted from the Twitch channel, it'll show up on the Patreon for people to watch, especially this one clip in particular.
No. You leave that clip alone. No one wants to see that clip.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm sure. No one wants to see that clip. No one cares. No one wants to see me get attacked by nothing. We won't speak of it. I didn't do anything. I'm not embarrassed at all.
But yeah, they are also working on getting clips from the streams and potentially also uploading to the raw footage will be uploaded onto Patreon, and we are still in the middle of discussing with the staff whether to put those clips on YouTube.
Yeah, it's definitely one be a few. God damn.
You are not excited about that at all.
I'm really not. I'm just like running around like a madman, by the way.
Yeah, I've noticed.
Yeah. Anyways, so yeah, we're also working on a couple other projects as well. So
yes, we are. The staff is very hard at work.
Yes, all of us. Just God. But hopefully our audience will look forward to it and enjoy it, and hopefully won't be.
We've got one person already who's just immediately like, give us the clips.
No, you don't get to have the clips. You join Patreon and maybe.
Oh, are we not putting the clips on YouTube like we thought?
I mean, maybe we will, maybe we won't. We'll see.
All right.
We'll see.
I know the raw footage is going to be put on Patreon.
I gotta ask a couple other people. Gotta make sure the workload even up. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. Anyways, doesn't matter. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
Yeah. And then there's also the sugar thing, which sucks. By the way, it's the worst challenge yet. It's the worst challenge yet. I mean, honestly, like, come on.
This is only the second one, man.
Yeah, here's the thing. We did the whole sleep challenge, right? And like the sleep thing, I was forced to sleep for like 7 or 8 hours, and it's like at that point, it's like it just felt like a huge waste of time, and then I was sore and like a little upset, to be honest, that I didn't get as much stuff done. But now it's like with the sugar thing, like not only do I feel tired at the end of the day, and I sleep for like 4 hours now, which is like for me, it sounds like nothing to some, but to me, it's like that's like a lot of time. I do not sleep very much, and I am so just like not even happy.
So done with it all?
I am done. Like I want my milkshakes. I want my brownies. Like I mean, sugar is my friend. No, it's not. It's actually my demon. But like, it's a happy demon, and, and it's so cruel. Anyways.
All right.
But, yeah.
But I think that's it for now, and perfect.
Yeah.
I think that's it for now. So why don't we go ahead and move? Do we want to go ahead and move back to the original setup?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
And there's a little happy little face right there. It's like hi.
Happy little face.
It's like hi there,
happy
everybody.
little face.
Hi, everybody.
Hello. Goodbye, Halo.
Goodbye, Halo. It's been another one of those Halo sessions. This is kind of hilarious. Like, this is like becoming a thing. Yeah, I have a question actually for like our viewers. Like,
Sure.
yeah, hopefully you guys will email the show with your responses, or perhaps maybe even leave it in the comment section. But I really would like to know if you guys enjoy seeing us play Halo, or if there are other games that you'd like to see us play. And if you'd like to see us play a game other than Halo, you can throw some suggestions and we'll take a look at it and see what we can do. Or if Halo's fine, then cool. But either way, I want to thank you guys all for your guys' support, and I really appreciate you guys coming there. And I can see that you guys have had quite the conversation. I guess I'm gonna have to go through it a little bit.
Yeah.
I couldn't see it this time. Sorry. But yeah. So I guess is there anything else you guys say, Rose?
Thank you for all the support so far, everybody. We really appreciate it.
Yes, definitely. All right, everybody. We'll see you guys all in the next one. Have a good rest of your night. Later.
Bye.